Colts quarterback Anthony Richardson could be the number one quarterback in your dynasty leagues now that he's healthy. We'll explain why on this episode of the Locked On Dynasty Football Podcast.
You are Locked On Dynasty Football, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. Here are your hosts, Marcus Mosher and Kate Madjuk.
Welcome back to the Locked On Dynasty Football Podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use promo code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. I am your host, Marcus Mosher. You can follow me on Twitter at Marcus_Mosher. Joining me today, as always, is Kate Madjuk. You can follow her on Twitter at Kate Madjuk. You can also read her at Pro Football Focus and Behind the Steel Curtain. On today's show, we're going to be discussing some of the biggest news and notes coming out of OTAs. I want to start with Anthony Richardson, Kate, because he's fully healthy. He's recovered from shoulder surgery, and boy, is his upside high. So what are your thoughts on his health and what the ultimate ceiling is for the year two quarterback?
The ceiling is the moon, Marcus. The ceiling is like Pluto. I know Pluto is not a planet anymore, but the ceiling is Pluto for a guy like Anthony Richardson. And it's purely evident in his production in year one. Now, we didn't get to see him for a very large sample size. He was there for a good time, not for a long time. But generally speaking, you are going to be very impressed. And a big part of that, of course, has to do with his rushing production. And I mean, Marcus, he had more rushing yards than Tua Tagovailoa. He barely played football.
I know he left two of the games early with an injury.
Yes, like that's kind of what's absolutely insane. You look at the production from a fantasy standpoint, 2 of his 4 games, he finished as a top 5 quarterback. Like, there's no question about the upside. In the other 2 games, as you mentioned, he had left early. So, like, I want to talk about that, but I do want to put like this caveat. So in OTAs, he's looking healthy. Reports say it looks like he never even had a surgery on his throwing shoulder, which is great. Mm-hmm. They've obviously done, I think some good work on the receiving core. I think Michael Pittman, Josh Downs, adding in AD Mitchell as kind of a, I don't know, I guess depending on how you want to break this down, if you want to call Josh Downs wide receiver 2, which I think he's a better 2, even if he plays out of the slot. Like, there's no question that AD Mitchell, I think, adds something to this offense with the size speed combination, even if he's not the most refined receiver. My only question is, like, when healthy, yes, he is going to be probably QB, at least a top 3 scoring quarterback based on his upside. Are you buying that he can stay healthy long-term? Because health has been a big issue for Anthony Richardson. And that's the biggest point of hesitancy I have when getting on board with top-end dynasty value.
That's my biggest concern as well. It's actually not the talent. And I think one of the reasons why, Kate, we actually saw his dynasty value go up from last year, despite, again, playing 4 games and leaving in 2 of them, is because of the offense. I think there was some concern, like, what is Shane Steichen's offense going to look like now that he's away from Philadelphia? I mean, not only did the offense look good, I mean, they almost made the playoffs with Gardner Minshew and a whole bunch of injuries on the offensive line, and Michael Pittman missing a game because of a concussion, and Jonathan Taylor missing a healthy chunk of the season. Like, they were a really good offense last year. I also don't think it hurts that, like, Philadelphia's offense took a major drop, step back, because
I don't think that was pure coincidence.
I don't think it was either. So I think there's a lot more stability with the Colts now, because we got to see what this team is going to look like and what the plan is going ahead. They drafted AD Mitchell. They have Josh Downs going into year 2. Don't forget Jelani Woods, who a lot of people really liked coming out of the 2022 draft, who played well as a rookie. He missed the entire season with a hamstring injury. They are just loaded with playmakers. They have a healthy Jonathan Taylor now. I think on a week-to-week basis, anytime that Anthony Richardson is healthy and playing, we're going to have a hard time not ranking him as a top 3 or top 4 quarterback. And if he has one of those seasons where it's 12 to 13 rushing touchdowns, a la like what Josh Allen did last year, and he's completing some of the big passes over the top, yeah, it would not surprise me at all if he stayed healthy for a full season, if he was QB1 as soon as this year.
Now, I will say, and again, I don't want to be the poo-poo artist here, but I do want to bring up just
Pooer?
I just want to bring up like the question about his ability as a passer. Now, obviously, again, very limited sample size last year, but going back and watching the tape, I didn't think he looked all that good as a passer. Are we just willing to totally put on the blindfolds and say, I don't care, rushing upside is king? Do you believe that there's a positive trajectory? I mean, even looking at the advanced stats in terms of clean pocket grade, ranked 36 of 43 quarterbacks with a
Mhm.
C3 grade there from a clean pocket, 88.5 passer rating in that situation. Um, that throws at or beyond the sticks, 28th among 40 quarterbacks. Took a good number of sacks. Like it
Does it matter?
in
That
terms of
that
development,
that's my question, Kate. Like, how much does it matter if he is a good passer or not?
it matters more for dynasty than it does
I would
for
agree.
and that I think the precursor for that discussion almost comes back to like look at uh, a guy like Justin Fields, right? Who he was incredibly mobile with the Bears, a ton of upside as a rusher, but couldn't put it together as a passer. And I mean, we're a few years into his career and his dynasty value after having once been probably drafted in like the same exact spot as Anthony Richardson just a couple seasons ago, he's unusable. So, like, I do think the passing matters a lot more for dynasty than it does for redraft. Like, redraft Anthony Richardson, yeah, you might be able to rank him inside your top 3 quarterbacks, but the injuries and the passing ability, which we haven't seen yet develop. Like, we know he can throw a deep ball. Can he make the short to intermediate throws on a consistent basis? Can he maximize yards after the catch? I don't think we actually know that. I think we've put the blindfolds on and we've said, like, look, he is a freak athlete who's got like this elite combination of size, elusiveness. And I do think we're just kind of like, all right, but are we making a mistake again, that the same kind of mistake we made with Justin Fields?
Let's wait and see. One of the reasons I think Justin Fields maybe failed in Chicago was because of the coaching staff that was there.
He's definitely got a better coaching staff, I'll give
Right.
you that.
If you look at like what Jalen Hurts did in year 1 with the Eagles, right? 52% completion percentage, had a 77 passer rating. I remember in 2021, the year that they made the playoffs in the wild card round, I mean, he was atrocious throwing the ball against the Buccaneers. I mean, they just got walloped. And I remember the question coming out of that game is, okay, is this thing going to work? Is Jalen Hurts a good enough passer to be an NFL starting quarterback? And then in 2022, he took off. The efficiency went way up because Shane Steichen is a wizard, right? Let's give it a little bit of time. I think Anthony Richardson has the passing upside to be really, really good in the NFL. I think you saw flashes of it last year. It wasn't consistent, and I know that's the biggest thing here is the consistency, but I think you saw flashes of rare ability to throw the ball down the field. I want to be in on Anthony Richardson. I want to be ahead of market. I think the news that he's at OTAs, he's throwing the ball, he looks good is very, very encouraging to me. Okay, let's move on to some other notes, including our guy Ladd McConkey. We found out where he's been lining up mostly with the Chargers. We will get to that next. This episode is brought to you by eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. That's the formula for winning championships, and it's also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber and not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only, exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. Welcome back to the Locked On Dynasty Football Podcast. Are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day? Are you having to turn down the volume because of all that shouting? Make the switch to Locked On Sports today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel program for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all that screaming. Locked On Sports today brings you can't miss analysis, opinions, and news, streaming 24/7 on YouTube or on the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. All right, Kate, let's talk about Ladd McConkey. We got some reports that he was lining up exclusively in the slot with the first team offense. That's big news because obviously Justin Herbert loves to pepper the slot receivers with targets. Look at Keenan Allen over the last couple of years. How encouraging is this for you?
I mean, this is huge. Like, I think we've actually seen, a good amount of reports from rookies, but I think there's still this culture where rookies need to earn your time with the first team. And I mean, you even look at Drake May, who's playing with the third string. And I don't think anybody's saying, I think we'll give like Jacoby Brissett the edge over Drake May in this situation, but like Drake May is at least QB2 in that offense.
I mean, come
there
on.
there's this kind of pathway that rookies need to take in order to gain, their way to first team reps. So the fact that they immediately slot him in with the first team, especially playing out of the slot, I think is just so encouraging because it does provide him a pretty easy pathway to production, right? Like there is a gaping hole in this offense, and there are a lot of gaping holes in this offense, but the availability of targets coming out of the slot. We saw Keenan Allen play 59% of snaps out of the slot. He's played 59% or more percent out of the slot in each of the past 3 seasons, and most of his production again comes from the slot. We saw a pretty decent chunk of his targets, 47.6% of his targets came out of the slot. This is an immediate opportunity to earn the trust of a quarterback who is not adverse to targeting the slot, targeting the middle of the field.
I think this is great news. I think as Ladd McConkey gets more comfortable in this offense, you'll see him be part of the 2 receiver sets, in base or 12 personnel or 21 personnel, whatever Jim Harbaugh wants to run. But in terms of fantasy production, having him be the exclusive slot receiver with the first team is great. Like this is how he gets production as a rookie. We know, as you mentioned, like Justin Herbert likes to target the slot receiver more than anything else. And I think Ladd McConkey's game translates really well to the slot. We saw that at Georgia. Kate, would it surprise you if Ladd McConkey led all receivers in receptions this year? Because it wouldn't for me.
It wouldn't, and that's a pretty bold take for a rookie who somehow, I have no idea how, fell into the second round. But Ladd McConkey coming out, we knew he was one of the best route runners in this class. I think he's just so safe. I think, for a guy who, again, might not necessarily like the slot receiver as a whole, like you hear slot and sometimes I feel like there's like this negative connotation, but
It should
in
be
the
the
right
opposite.
offense with the right quarterback, it's very conducive to a high volume role because these are the players that will get a lot of targets to move the chains. And I think day one, without ever taking a snap on the NFL field, Ladd McConkey is the best wide receiver in this Chargers offense for me, hands down.
Oh, easily. I'd agree. There was another wide receiver note that I wanted to bring up to you. This just came out a little bit while ago. This is from Lions camp. According to Dan Campbell, Jamison Williams is a man on the mission. He said that Williams has been the most improved player since the start of spring, and the expectation is that he's going to be wide receiver 2 this year. Does that get you excited at all about Jamison Williams, or is this one of these things like you're gonna have to wait and see before you buy?
I think you have to wait and see before you buy. And here's the thing. So he might technically be wide receiver 2, right? But I don't think anybody's wondering, like, is he actually wide receiver 2? Because he's not. He's going to be behind Sam Laporta in targets. I don't think anybody has
Yeah.
any question about that. And then there's the fact that, Marcus, I just don't know. Like, so let's say Jamison Williams is the most improved player.
It's great.
That's great. I'm happy for him. But he had 30.2% of his targets come at 20 or more yards, which again can be a very conducive role for chasing upside, especially if it's kind of
Yes,
like, maybe a flex value. But that kind of usage is also just it's volatile. And
it is.
for fantasy managers who need a consistent asset, I don't think we're going to get that out of Jamison Williams unless they find ways to incorporate him closer to the intermediate and short passing games. But again, they already have 2 wide receivers, or I'm calling Sam Laporta a wide receiver. They already have 2 players very capable of handling this short and intermediate area work.
How
I
many targets are there to go around? I think that's the thing. Like if you're penciling in Amon St. Brown for 10 targets a game, which I mean
Yeah.
we've seen he gets plenty of that, and you're penciling in Sam Laporta for let's say 7 targets a game, and then let's say the running backs are getting 8 combined targets a game. There's just not a lot of work to go around here. Now, the benefit for Williams is that he might only need a target or 2 to be flex worthy that day, but he needs to convert on it. The
Yep.
other thing is I don't know if I can trust him to stay healthy. Like it's awesome that he's improving. We're going into year 3. Like if a breakout is going to happen, it's going to happen this year. But I think I'm going to be one of the dynasty managers that's a little bit slower to react here. I would rather see him put together like a 4 or 5 game stretch that's really good, and I'd rather pay a little bit more to go get him rather than trying to buy him low now and gain some additional value because I just don't see it yet.
And to be fair, I do think there is some opportunity. So Josh Reynolds last year had 81 targets. Jameson Williams had 53 targets. I do think, like, let's say they flip, like let's say we give Jameson Williams the 81 targets. That's probably going to be conducive to some league winning weeks. But I do think just at this point, if they're going to utilize him in the same way that we saw in 2023, I think he's better suited for a best ball format.
Yes.
And yeah, I think
I
that's kind of
I want to see more. Like if this buzz continues throughout the rest of the offseason, maybe there will be a good time to buy. But I'm waiting to see. Let's talk, Kate, about my Dallas Cowboys. This is a Dallas Cowboys show. Oh, wait, no, that's Locked on Cowboys, which you guys should go check out as well. Is Ezekiel Elliott really RB1 for the Cowboys? We'll discuss that next. This episode is brought to you by Yahoo Finance. When it comes to your financial future, you think you've done it all. You've saved, you've researched, you've invested all that you can. Now you need to take those investments to the next level by using what every financial great uses, Yahoo Finance. For more than 25 years, Yahoo Finance has been the brand behind every great investor. Whether you're a seasoned investor or looking for some extra guidance, Yahoo Finance gives you all the tools and the data you need in one place. They are the number one finance destination, producing a holistic look at the financial news cycle, including breaking news, original editorial perspective, analyst ratings, independent research, customizable charts, and so much more. With a community of over 90 million users each month, their real strength is helping you on your way to financial success. For comprehensive financial news and analysis, visit the brand behind every great investor, yahoofinance.com, the number one financial destination, yahoofinance.com. That is yahoofinance.com. Welcome back to the Locked On Dynasty podcast. Every dayers. On Monday's show, we've got a special show for you. We're going to be looking at a couple quarterbacks who are going to see their ADP, the ADPs rise dramatically over the next 12 months. So make sure you are on the lookout for that. But let's talk some Ezekiel Elliott. My favorite topic, Kate. Is he actually going to be RB1 for the Cowboys? What do you think?
So here's the thing. We got a report coming out of training camp here from Nick Harris. Ezekiel Elliott is being viewed as the leader of the RB room, but it's already beginning to look like a committee approach as he and Rico Dowdle split nearly all of the first team reps on Wednesday. So that is interesting, to say the least. And I don't necessarily know that Ezekiel Elliott is the takeaway from this report. He's the leader of the RB room, which maybe that means he like more of a spiritual captain type of role. And let's be honest, that room sorely needs a leader. But it's Rico Dowdle that I think is kind of the interesting takeaway here. And I want to talk more about him because, I mean, Marcus, if there is anybody flying under the radar for this offense, it probably is Rico Dowdle, and you can get him for a song right now.
You can, but I wouldn't suggest buying him.
So you wouldn't trade a song for Rico Dowdle?
I mean, if it's a good one, maybe, or a bad one. I think there's going to be other opportunities to buy Rico Dowdle at a cheaper cost because before the Cowboys had their OTA practice yesterday, Mike McCarthy talked about how they have 4 spots open on the roster. He met with Will McClay, their director of player personnel. And basically, they were talking about some veterans that they might try to sign or trade for before training camp begins. So I'm in the belief that they're going to add a running back sometime in June or July. I also think that Ezekiel Elliott probably will open the season as a starter. And one of the reasons why is because they're going to have such a young offensive line. They're going to have a developmental rookie at left tackle, Tyler Guyton, who's really never played left tackle before. They're going to have a new starting center in Cooper Beebe, who has only practiced at center. So they're going to want the running back on the field that's best in pass protection, which I think is Ezekiel Elliott. But I think as the year goes on and as the offensive line gets better and more experienced, that's when you'll see more of Rico Dowdle. You'll see more of whoever is on this Cowboys roster. So I believe that it's going to be a split backfield. I just don't know if Rico Dowdle is the player to buy right now.
Out of all of the available free agents, which this was a pretty kind of rich free agent class at the running back position. Are there any names that stick out to you as like maybe potential kind of afterthoughts that you would want?
No, because what I think the Cowboys are looking for now is they have their bigger backs on the roster with Ezekiel Elliott, Rico Dowdle, and Hunter Lipke, a fullback running back hybrid. What they're looking for now is a player that can come in and give them some juice, give them some speed. And I wouldn't be surprised, Kate, if it's like I'm just going to throw out like a name, like Jeff Wilson for the Dolphins, who kind of is now buried behind Raheem Mostert, obviously Devon A-Chain, now Jalen Wright. Like if it's somebody like Jeff Wilson who they trade for to give them a little bit of more, more juice in the backfield, I think that's what's going to ultimately happen here.
Is Deuce Vaughn going to be on the roster in 2024?
I would say no, but I think he's part of the reason why they haven't traded for anybody yet. Like I think they want to give him enough opportunities to show why he should or shouldn't be on the team this offseason.
Okay. I think that's fair. I think it's fair to say though that I don't know that anybody really knows what this room is going to look like, whether they maybe make a move to trade. I think maybe trading for a guy like Khalil Herbert with the Chicago Bears, who now You have DeAndre Swift, you have Roshan Johnson, who both of those guys can play both, a first and second down role and a passing game role. Like, take Khalil Herbert, who's in a contract year. You have the option to extend him. And I think Khalil Herbert, one of the more underrated running backs here in, this kind of era. James Conner, we've mentioned before, the Cardinals drafted Trey Benson. I think there's a lot of potential. I don't necessarily know that there are any free agents right now. I mean, like, you have like the Dalvin Cooks, you have like
No thanks.
But I do think that maybe the trade market offers a little bit of something. Like, I can't fathom that this is going to be the room come day
It
one.
won't be. No, it won't be. They're going to add somebody else. I think Zeke is.
We're not buying any OTA's hype regarding
No.
this running back room.
I just think it's interesting that Zeke is leading the backfield in OTAs. And I think that's just because of the experience. You look at the number of carries that are on this, like, career carries behind Ezekiel Elliott. Like, Rico Dowdle has like 100. I mean, Deuce Vaughn has only a few. Hunter Lipke only has a few. It's Royce Freeman is in the backfield. Like, it's not a surprise that Zeke is the leader of the running back room right now, but it's not going to stay that way. They know that. They can't overwork Zeke. They know that he's not that type of running back. So I would highly advise anybody that's looking at the Cowboys backfield to just wait this out. We're going to get some news here over the next 3 months. Be patient here.
I think that's fair.
All right, that is it for today's show. We want to thank you for making Locked On Dynasty your first listen every single day. Go check out the channel on YouTube. We post videos every day over there. Go download the podcast wherever you get your podcasts. We are free and available on all platforms. Again, every day is on Monday's show. We're going to be looking at 3 quarterbacks whose ADP is going to rise a ton over the next 12 months. So be on the lookout for that. Go follow Kate on Twitter at Kate Modjuk. I'm at Marcus_Mosier. Enjoy your holiday weekend, and we will see you right back here on Monday.